This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario.
Hi everyone, it's Rebecca, and Tara and I today are really excited. We have a special guest to do our reader repartee. We have Rob Mabee, who is Mark Tewksbury's business manager and partner. And during the whole process, I'm sure all of you have listened to our interviews with Mark. You know, we really got to know Rob because he's that contact for us. And so we just really thought, let's see if we can get Rob to do it, because we know he kind of pushed Mark into becoming sort of re-engaging with reading again. So we thought, let's go ahead and ask Rob. So Rob, first we want to welcome you to our podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here myself.
Great. Okay, now we do, since people may not know too much about you, can you give us a little bit about who you are or anything you want to say about your background?
Well, sure. Let's see. I don't know where to start, but just quickly. Mostly I've been in arts and culture in my life as my work. I've run art galleries and I've been part of the local art scene in the city that we live in, which is Calgary, Alberta. And about the last 8 to 10 years, I've been more involved in marketing and public relations. And that's when I started working with Mark, not just my partner, but now also my business partner. I work with him, managing his company and events for him. And I was sure a huge proponent for him getting onto Canada Reads. So I'm really excited to talk to you today.
And by the way, on your Instagram account, I did see that your mother is an amazing artist. Do you want to just give her a shout out? Because I loved her work that I saw.
Yeah, she's 83. I don't think she'd mind me telling you. And she just had a great opening of her paintings. She's shown for years, but this was a show just last Saturday. Beautiful paintings, whimsical, full of life, really celebrating life in her own, very beautiful vision. So if anyone wants to look her up, it's audreymabee.com.
Okay, and we will link to that. So thank you for sharing that with us. Great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Let's get started. Our first question for the reader repartee. How did you become a reader?
Well, this really clearly goes to my mom, who we just spoke of, Audrey Mabee, and being a lifelong reader herself. I'm her only kid, and as her baby, she just started reading to me right away. So children's books, and I loved books as a child, and we read a lot together. Certainly before I could read myself, I can recall clearly, rainy Saturdays when it's raining all day, and we would just curl up and read, get a big box of books and read all day. So certainly I've read all my life. I maybe I wasn't always a huge reader as a young adult or teen. I guess I read Hardy Boys, and I think I remember sometimes kind of being discouraged by maybe tackling books that were a little bit advanced for me. But I think I'd be attracted to my mom's bookcase all the time and looking at the covers and thinking that this looks good. And I might have been in a little bit over my head sometimes, but I'd say I've just really been a lifelong reader, and largely thanks to my mom.
Oh, I love hearing that. That's wonderful. Yeah. Okay, question number 2. What book do you wish you could read again for the first time and have that experience of reading it again for the first time?
Well, thinking about this one, it was quite difficult, but I think you probably don't forget the first time you read your first Haruki Murakami. And so this wasn't that long ago, maybe in 2019. And I took on a big one. It was maybe his 2018 book, Killing Commendatore. And I read a review of it, I guess, and I was really attracted to the theme, and that it was sort of based on a homage to Fitzgerald's Great Gatsby. And it's about a 700-page book. So maybe for Murakami beginners, it's maybe not the best place to start. But there's something about the feeling when your world is rocked by Murakami, by the magic realism that, because it started off quite slow and rather beguiling. And at some point, Murakami just blows your mind. And I think I'd like to go back to the first time, I guess my mind was kind of blown by a book, by an author. I've since gone into some other novels of him the last few years, and certainly generally a lot smaller. Killing Commendatore is quite an epic, but they're a lot of fun. He's such an amazing writer and a visionary, really a visionary, that creating worlds.
Can I just say, I just read him for the first time, but I read Norwegian Wood.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, and so I'm really that's fascinating that you mentioned him, because he does have the most amazing background in terms of how much people love him worldwide.
Norwegian Wood, I've read, is one of the most read novels in Japan. Like everyone has read Norwegian Wood, of a certain era, of a certain generation, and it didn't quite go in. It doesn't go into the world of the magic realism that I think he's more known for. But yeah, it was a beautiful kind of a coming of age story, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I have to join the Murakami Club because I am not a member. I have not read anything of his. But I have to change that, because I think Rebecca put him on my radar a few months ago when she read that book. And then as soon as you said that, Rob, I was like, okay, I have to change this.
Right.
Yeah.
Killing Commendatore is epic. It just brings you in slowly and suddenly. And sometimes it was the first of his I'd read too, and I thought maybe some of the dialogue suffered in translation a bit, but I think it was just sort of a formal way Japanese speakers are speaking to each other, and then before you know it, like pow, you're just, what's going on? I'd really recommend it, Tara.
Oh, I'm going to. Yeah, I wrote it down. It's on my paper right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I just want to say one other thing too. Sheila Rogers interviewed Murakami's translator. He's translated most of his books into English, and that was the most fascinating interview, because I hadn't read him up until that point. But based on that interview with his translator, I thought, okay, he's on my list. I've got to read him. And I haven't read, as you said, I haven't read the magic realism part of his work yet. But the translator, wow, what an amazing story he tells about him. So anyway, well, I'll try and find the link to that and put that on as well.
I'd love to hear that interview. I was interested that they were mostly translated by the same person. And I thought, what an incredible skill. That must be, not just, I'm translating words, but kind of getting the essence of such an acclaimed author.
Yeah. And he goes into great detail about that. And that's what was absolutely fascinating, because like he said, it's not just a literal translation, right? You have to have the essence of what the author's trying to convey. And someone like Murakami, can you imagine trying to, try to pull out what he's trying to tell in a different language?
Yeah, such a sensibility. Oh, another interesting one, Tara, maybe to start with looking at, is called After Dark, maybe from about 20 years ago. And a pretty short read, and it sort of introduces you to a little bit of his otherworldliness, or some of the things that go on quite beyond our regular plane of existence.
Excellent. Okay, question 3, Rob. What is your favorite opening sentence?
Oh, that was such a hard one, because I surprised myself. I of course I had a few in mind, some books who were among my favorite books that were so witty and wonderful, and none of them had very remarkable first sentences, until I found a book that I really love, a beautiful book, The Good Soldier, A Tale of Passion, from Madox. And I think I first read this when I was studying at the University of Calgary as an English major, and studying the modern novel. And it's a beautiful story. I think it was published in 1915 first, and so certainly in the days of World War I. And And tell me if this line doesn't lure you in. Part 1, page 1. This is the saddest story I have ever heard. Period.
I got
That's a good
chills.
one.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
good
a
one.
good one. Wow. Okay, well, and again, we will link to all of the books that that are mentioned today. So now, here's a different direction. We're not going to go with sentence this time, but we're going to go what is your favorite book cover?
Yeah, I love that. I studied design and illustration at art college before I went to university and studied English literature. So I really have always responded visually, and as an art curator. So I kind of often go with a whole series of books that it's not just one cover, but it's the whole series that are often by the same illustrator or design house. So I found this beautiful collection in my library of paperbacks by Louis de Bernières, probably from the mid 90s or early 90s, and his whole kind of early novels up to Captain Corelli's Mandolin. So it's the illustrations, also the font and the text is also by the same art. It's kind of fully incorporated into the design, so it's not just an illustration or a photograph, but also the integration of the text and the font. And the illustrations are by Jeff Fisher. The cover design is Button Design Company. So this is certainly Captain Corelli's Mandolin, and the 3 novels that preceded that, The Troublesome Offspring of Cardinal Guzman, The War of Don Emmanuel's Nether Parts, and Señor Vivo and the Coca Lord. So those 4 that are all done by this artist are really, really visually fun to look at, and I think worked really well for those early the Bernières novels.
Oh, I can't wait to look at those
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, this was a hard one because there's so many other things that I really loved. So I had a runner-up. Do you want to know what my runner-up was?
Absolutely.
Okay. There was a series by Patricia Highsmith that wrote The Talented Mr. Ripley, turned into a film in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And she also wrote Strangers on a Train, the Hitchcock. It was turned into the Hitchcock film in the 50s.
Oh.
So there was a whole series of Ripley novels. I think I've got 5 from, let's see, W.W. Norton, published in I'm not sure exactly when they're published, but beautiful black and white photography on each one of them. So again, another really series and a beautiful series of black and white photographs by Rodney Smith. So that's kind of a cool series too. If I get to have 2 answers, that would be my second.
Yep, absolutely. You get 2 answers, 100%.
Just have one when it was covers.
Okay, our last question, Rob. Which author, living or dead, would you like to meet in person and why?
Okay, I'm just limiting myself to 1 on this one.
Okay.
So this was hard to choose. And I just went with something that was kind of recent in my trajectory, something that I've been reading lately. So first I read a novel a while ago by, wrote it down because I can remember it name, by Paula McLain, called Circling the Sun. And it's about a woman, Beryl Markham.
Ooh.
And then I read Beryl Markham's own memoir of the same period, and it's called West with the Night by Beryl Markham, and she's fascinating. So I think I respond really well to people who kind of challenge the conventions of their day, who were somehow going against the societal norms, and we're really breaking ground as individuals. And she's really fascinating. Her paths intersected with Isaac Dinesen and some of the characters in Kenya in that day. And it's a story of a woman in the 1920s and 1930s who moved as quite a young girl to Kenya with her father. and became just a remarkable woman, especially, for any time, but especially in those times when the roles of women were quite different and quite defined by your society. And she became a racehorse trainer and one of the early aviators, and just as a memoir and a novel, like both the memoir and the novel, really made me think, man, it would be fascinating to have dinner with this woman and talk to her about her life.
Wow. I love that answer. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh. Because okay, Rob, I just have to say you gave us a lot to work with in terms of I'll be looking up those that information and putting it on the in the notes, the show notes. But yeah, you did a super job with answers. What do you think, Tara?
Oh, yeah, I have a list of books going, like,
I know.
a I've added 5 or 6 books to my TBR list. Thanks,
Oh,
Rob.
well, it's a pleasure. It was really fun to think about these answers and limit myself to really think about it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, thank you so much. We so appreciate that you took time out of your day to chat with us, and we're really excited to just really look at all of these different perspectives that readers bring to it, which is why we decided to do this kind of thing once a month. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy what you're doing, and thanks for keeping the conversation going.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.